Who will Manchester United be signing this summer? This is going to be part one of a two-part series looking at dream, realistic, and maybe under-the-radar options for all the key positions that Man United need to be signing players this summer under Jim Ratcliffe. The first summer for Ineos. Will things be different? Who will we sign? In this video, I'm going to run through right centre-back options, central midfield options, left centre-back options, and left-back options. And in part two, we'll take a look at right wing and striker options. Loads to run through. This is more like a scouting video, really, taking a look at some players that you will know and maybe players that you won't know. Drop a like on the video if you do enjoy these. Lots of work gone into this, and big up to Steve for helping with the scouting, really, on this one. But let's take a look here at probably positions I would say are quite fixed for Manchester United next season, right? And you can see where the gaps are. And I'm going to start by looking at right centre-back options. And now, the whole centre-back market, right centre-back and left centre-back, there's loads and loads of options. But Antonio Silva may well be, if budget is no problem, that's what this signing is going to be. Antonio Silva, right? Plays for Benfica, really has been elite. He's still growing, of course. Here's some notes on how Antonio Silva has been getting on. £85 million release clause. So if we were to sign him, I mean, budget-wise, I don't think we can go anywhere near him, but we're talking about dream, realistic, and maybe under-the-radar ones. Doesn't have elite recovery pace, is fast, and his anticipation and positioning means he's more than comfortable playing in a high line. 96th and 98th percentile for tackles in the middle and attacking third. He's aggressive, ball carrier. You can see why Antonio Silva would tick the box for a lot of people. And why for Steve, he's down as his top choice. Now, remember that I'm going to be running through this and speaking about players that I've watched a bit of and some that I haven't. Now, somebody who I've definitely watched more of, and this is more of a realistic signing in the right centre-back position, is Jean-Claire Todibo, all right? Nice obviously had a fantastic start to the season. They're kind of fading off a little bit, but still, Todibo has been impressive. We can see here the standout stats for him. Tackles, progressive passes, passes attempted, successful take-ons. Not too much, really, in an attacking sense. But in terms of an aggressive, right-sided centre-back who, importantly, can play in the one-on-one situation. That's what United need. We need centre-backs who, when we press forward, they can step up so that if the ball goes over the top, they have the athletic ability to cover that space on their own. Right now, they don't. Hence why our defenders are dropping so deep. It's a big part of any centre-back we have to look at. But Jean-Claire Todibo, he's probably more your realistic signing. And then you could look at Kevin Danso. Plays for Lens. He's definitely, I think he's been linked with Bayern Munich, so I wouldn't say he's completely under the radar, right? Take a look at his stats here. His standout down there, I mean, he's not really got too many standout stats, is what Steve's been saying about him. Fast, strong, aggressive defender, dominant in aerial duels, prefers to progress the ball through carries rather than line-breaking passes, so breaking out from the back. So they're kind of three right centre-back options. You got Antonio Silva, you got Jean-Claire Todibo, and Kevin Danso. Of the three, which one would I think is more likely? I would probably go Todibo. All right. So I'm going to put Todibo in there. Now, of course, this is nothing in the know. This is just me doing some research. Just kind of, it's a bit fun, really, to kind of predict where United's, because this is what United will be doing behind the scenes, by the way. This is what the Scouting Network does. All right. We're just doing a little bit here. Let's move on to central midfield targets. And I think you're all going to know who I'm going to say is the top target. If money was no option. Now, João Neves, like, I've watched him a fair bit this season. And you look at his stature and you go, well, there's no way that he could be like a defensive midfielder in a physically dominant Premier League. But oddly enough, not oddly enough, when you watch him, defensively, he's just as impressive as he is with the ball. You can see this guy's elite, right? He's 19. You can see his numbers. 98th percentile for passes attempted, 91st for completion, 90% for take-on, but 91st percentile for tackles and 97th for blocks. João Neves, right, a little bit more information on him here, could play as a number 6 or number 8, ground and aerial duel-winning monster despite his size. He would be premium. We're talking like over 100 mil premium. So it's not a realistic signing. It's a dream signing. And if money was no option, I think you'd go out and get João Neves, and it's kind of, there's not really much point of a conversation. But who could you look for elsewhere? Now, you could also stay in Portugal. And Morten Hjulmand was brought in to Sporting where Manuel Ugarte went to PSG, and he's just fitting like a glove, right? There's not too much point looking at his stats chart, right, compared to other central midfielders, but he really has been impressive. Some notes here. He stepped into their side, and they haven't missed him at all. In possession, his primary objective is to protect the ball. He's kind of more like a typical defensive midfielder. And if we're looking at what Manchester United need, I think we need somebody who balances perfectly with Kobbie Mainoo. Now, Kobbie Mainoo is somebody who can receive the ball from his defenders, can bring it forward progressively. We kind of need that sort of... I'm not talking a Frankie de Jong style progressive midfielder, but somebody who can receive the ball from defence first and bring it forward, but also out of possession offers a lot. And I think that's where Martin Heumann, he can be a good signing, could be a good signing. Moving on to sort of a lesser known name here is Mandela Keita, who is on loan at Antwerp. Now, there's not really too much point. You can see it down here. You can have a look at his chart. 97th percentile for interceptions and tackles. But Steve seems pretty convinced about this lad. This is what he said, because this is what happens when I haven't got enough time to watch all the leagues and all the players, and neither has Manchester United. So they have a scouting network and data that they rely on, and they interpret to decide who the better signings would be. And maybe Mandela Keita would be one of those names that come up as part of this research by Manchester United. Steve's calling him a defensive monster, a young player who's ready to make the step up, dominant in aerial duels, and it's an interesting name. Another name that I've seen thrown about, is it Bacolo from Sassuolo? It strikes me, out of those three options, if I was going to choose one, the one that's probably most likely for United would be Heumann. I don't think we're going to be able to afford João Neves. As much as I do think, the more I watch of him, the more impressed I am by him, the more I think he could be a fantastic signing. But I just don't think we're going to have the money for it, because there's too much we've got to do this summer. So let's move on to left centre-back options. And again, I think you're all going to know who's been... I actually didn't name Amadou Onana there either, who I've been speaking about a fair bit. I think Onana's going to come with a huge Premier League premium that would probably put him over the budget that United would want to sign him for. That's just kind of my prediction. And I would probably put Jared Branthwaite in that same category. But if money was no option, right, I think it would absolutely have to be him. He kind of looks like a ready-made United player without being a United player. Right, there's some stats and info on him if you want to read that. But Jared Branthwaite is somebody who I've watched probably more than anybody, because I have more access to watching the Premier League. It's kind of, by the by, it's part of my job, right? He can play left centre-back. He can play right centre-back, where he played at, what was it? Was it PSV he was at, I think, on loan for a year? Could also even cover realistically as a left-back if we need him to. Can play all three. Progressive ball carrier, physically dominant, aerially dominant, great in a one-on-one situation, can cover space. I mean, he ticks pretty much every box, and he's young as well. It's just the only box he won't tick is the price tag. So Jared Branthwaite, again, if you're talking about dream signing, I think you can't really do better than him. But maybe if United are going to look elsewhere, you might look to Serie A, because Bologna are certainly a team who are tearing it up this season. And John Luchumi? I'm going to call him Luchumi, was actually linked to us. I think I remember seeing the links probably a couple of months ago, right? They really are an exciting team to watch under Thiago Motta this season, all right? Take a look at the stats here if you want to take a look. Pass completion and progressive carries, his two strengths, but, weaknesses elsewhere. From a price perspective, significantly more reasonable. And it's in that bracket of, I imagine most Manchester United's transfers this summer, you're looking more towards a 30 to 50 million mark. And Luchumi would slot right in there. And maybe so would his teammate, Calafiori. Both Bologna centre-backs could slot in at Manchester United because they play a very progressive style of football. There's a lot of profile similarity, you think, into what they're doing there to what United want to do. We want to be able to play out from the back with the ball. And that's where he would absolutely slot in. And his numbers are really quite impressive. His shot-creating actions and assists, you can see how high they are. Interceptions, right up there in the 97th percentile. He is a very interesting prospect. More than a prospect, really. Bologna have... I think it would be unfair to sort of label them all as prospects or stuff like that. I think out of all the dream or realistic signings that I've put down here, I think if there was one that United were going to stump up for, and go big, it just strikes me that it will be Jared Branthwaite. That Premier League guarantee, that British core maybe that Jim Ratcliffe wants to build, the age. Signing those two and Maguire being sold, Varane leaving because we won't pay him 300 grand a week, and Lindelof leaving, bringing those two in with Lisandro Martinez and then Evans as, as a backup whenever, and then Willy Cambuala coming through. There's your defence sorted. Cost a lot. About 100 to 130 mil between them. And maybe we haven't got the money for that. But maybe Branthwaite is unrealistic. But I'm putting him down because I really want us to sign him. I'll be completely honest. Now let's move on to the left-back position. And Miguel Gutierrez is Girona's left-back. And you know the season that Girona are having in La Liga is kind of surprising everybody. But Lee, is he on loan? Or did he come... I think he's not on loan at Girona, but he came from Madrid's academy, if I'm correct. Now, he is somebody that's got a 35 million release clause. And age-wise, I think he fits into that profile. Yeah, he's 22. Of that profile that we've heard that... I think Fabrizio Romano was speaking about how Man United are going to look for younger left-backs. Well, a young left-back. So one of the names I'm going to be mentioning soon doesn't really fit that, but he's a free transfer. So maybe that's why he would fit from a financial perspective. But he's extremely progressive. A bit like Grimaldo at Bayer Leverkusen. You could put him down here as if money was no option sort of thing. But Gutierrez is down as a first option. Now, down as a second option, and this is one of Steve's favourites, actually. He's clearly been watching a fair amount of him. Patrick Dorgu plays for Lecce. No one's really been speaking about him. No one really knows who he is. But he's somebody who Steve is convinced that if United made a move for him, given his age, was he 19, I think? 19, coming through, that he would have the requirements needed to grow into a top-level centre-back. So that's maybe a name to watch out for. And then you've got Hermosa from Atletico Madrid. And the reason that he is on this list is because he is a free agent in the summer. And maybe it could be a smart signing for Manchester United if we've spent our budgets elsewhere. But left-back is anybody's guess, right? And I'm going to go for Dorgu, right? This one's for you, Steve. But remember that left-back next season, okay? Fingers crossed Luke Shaw is going to be fit. And if Luke Shaw's fit, Luke Shaw starts. So are you going to go out and spend and maybe sign Gutierrez, who's flying high with Girona? Is he going to be happy just being Luke Shaw's understudy? Probably not. You're probably going to be looking for someone younger who is happy to have that 12, 18-month succession process and then comes in and is your first choice. And of course, Madasiaba, if he even exists, might be there next year. So this is just some options, all right? Nothing in the know here, but we've been doing some research, and these are some of the names that we've gone with and come up with. If money was no option, you'd sign João Neves, you'd sign Antonio Silva, you'd sign Jared Branthwaite, maybe you'd sign Gutierrez, and you win all the pots. But it's about the budgets and where that money is spent. Now, of course, even these, like Todibo would be like, let's say 40 million. Branthwaite, probably 75 million. Hjulmand, well, it's signed from a Portuguese team, so it's going to be north of 50 million. So what's that? 70, 40, 110, 160, plus Dorgu, 170. And you still need a striker. Can we do that this summer? Well, we need to sell well. But that's some names on the list. That's part one, all right? I've run through some dream options, some realistic options, and maybe some lesser-known options. Who would be on your list that I haven't mentioned? You let me know in the comments, and we'll do part 2 soon.